So I overhauled this carburetor for a guy. The truck had been sitting for 7 or 8 years and hadn't been driven. He bought it in Alabama and drove it back to Tennessee. And he said it was running fine until about a week after he got home. Then all of a sudden, it didn't want to idle. It would do weird things. It would quit, stall, and die. So I got the carburetor off the truck and put a kit in it. So basic overhaul, not a remanufacturing process, just a rebuild or a repair with a carburetor kit. And I was able to get a brass float. I did it on the bench. I was very careful to take pictures of the carburetor before I took it apart. They're great clues when you have to put it back together. Sometimes they give you directions or an exploded view, and sometimes they don't. In this case, the kit I got did not have any directions or an exploded view, which was weird. I think possibly someone had slit it with a razor blade and taken that stuff out. It wasn't missing any significant parts. This carburetor was just full of red dirt. Every passage was plugged. Everything was filthy. The jets, the needles, the bottom of the bowl was just filled with crap, even the accelerator pump area. So I took it all apart and soaked it carefully overnight and put it back together on the bench the next day. Then I went to a friend of mine's shop and installed it, and it seemed to run great. We ran it for several minutes. Ran awesome. So he and I went for a test drive. And when we did the test drive, things did not go so smoothly. It started running really badly and flooding, but that was about 15 or 20 minutes into the test drive. Until that point, it was great. I was then informed that the guy at the shop had put a new fuel pump on the truck just a few days before in an attempt to get it running. He had also replaced the fuel filter, and the new fuel filter that was less than a week old was full of the same kind of crud. He indicated to me that he had replaced the fuel tank, the pickup, the sock in the tank, and all of the lines as well. And we still had a filter full of crap. I'm Fred, and we rebuilt this carburetor and went to test drive it, and all of a sudden it's flooding. But we hustled to get back to the shop, and it's not flooding anymore. So I suspect there's some debris left from the prior problems. We're going to pull the lid off and check it out. So this is how you take the lid off a misbehaving Quadrajet in a matter of a couple of minutes. The first thing is to release this screw for the choke linkage. And don't drop it. Slip this off. We're going to set this aside here in front of this truck. And then we're going to need a hammer. The second thing we're going to do is take these bolts loose. Now the key to this is having a drift punch to make this easy. You want to knock this out only enough where the arm comes out, and so you can still fit a screwdriver in behind it so you can push it back in. So we want to make sure that we can get a screwdriver in behind it. I'm going to put one behind there just to be certain. Looks like we're pretty good. We got to go a little more. You can still get it. Now our pump arm is released. That way we can get the lid off the carburetor. Now we're down to screws. There are two tricky screws down in here. Of course they're hidden and inconvenient, and they have a funky little taper to them. And if you drop them down in the engine, it's an ugly, ugly thing. So I always use a magnet to pull them out. We're going to put them over here in this little handy factory tray. Somewhere in there's a screw. I swear there is. Be damned if I can see it. I'm going to take it out. See if I can feel it. There we go. Got it. All the other ones are pretty easy. There are a couple hidden behind this plate here. This is some kind of an add-on for the air horn I've never really understood. But it must do something or they wouldn't put it on. All of the screws on this are the same length except for the back two. The back two are much longer. I tend to put all my screws in one place so I don't lose them. This is a field repair, so I don't have my electric impact screwdriver to do this with. That speeds things up a little bit. I should have thought ahead, but I didn't know it was going to break down after we rebuilt it.
Flat or Phillips?
Flat or Phillips? Flat, but we're almost done. It's fine. We don't need it. We're good. Yes. Well, these are the long screws and they're long. And before I go any further, this is what I call the Jesus screw, because if you lose this, only Jesus can help you find it. So my best thought on this is to put it right back in the carburetor so it doesn't disappear. Here are your secondary metering rods. They're always tricky to put back in as well. Put that in so it can't fall out. Put these aside. Did I get all the screws? Maybe. Looks like I did. So now we can carefully access the float. Oops. There's the accelerator pump. Now we can see our float. Oops. If you're careful, you won't tear the gasket. And that'll be good. Just kind of push that out of the way. Now we can see the float. And it's definitely floating. These are our primary metering rods. Oops, I'm going to go ahead and slide this gasket out of the way. Just get it out of the way. Okay. So it looks like the float is very, very full. In fact, it's so full, it's going up to the top, and that's too much. So I'm going to say we probably have some debris in the needle and seat. Can I get that out of there? Being very uncooperative. Let's see if we can ease this out of here. Here are your primary metering rods and a spring that I just dropped inside there. We'll have to retrieve that spring once we get this out. So now you have your needle and seat. I'm going to find that spring so it's not lost. There we go. And here's the needle, oops, which of course I've dropped. And we'll look at it and we'll see if we don't have some debris in the bowl. Can you grab the camera? Okay, there we go. I don't know if this will give us any clues or not. You really can't see much of anything. But I'm going to guess there's some debris right down in the center of that brass piece there. See it bubbling? It's pushing fuel. Even though the truck's off, it's still got fuel pressure on it. So maybe we just have excessive fuel pressure. It appears that the fuel is still coming in, even though it's not running and the pump's not pumping. That's an indicator of possibly a bad fuel pump. So we'll figure it out and we'll start another video. So we've sopped up the fuel in there, and we seem to still have a pretty clean bowl in there, and I didn't find any debris in the needle and seat. So what we're left with is some kind of a hot soak problem or a fuel pump that's producing excessive pressure. So we're going to reassemble it and put a fuel pressure regulator on it, see if that doesn't resolve it. Sometimes the mechanical pumps go bad and they won't maintain the pressure they're supposed to. They just go crazy and put out 10 psi. But you can see that it's pushing fuel into the carburetor even though the truck's been off for 10 minutes. It's still pushing fuel in there. We'll let it bubble a minute there. Doesn't take long and it bubbles again. You see the bubbles in there. It's still got a little bit of pressure coming into the carburetor. It's been off for more than 10 minutes. It's still pushing fuel. So that's our issue, not necessarily the float level or the build quality of the carburetor. It's just excess fuel pressure. I didn't do anybody a service by not explaining how to put this back together. So this has to be lined up, and then you gently push the pin back in and push it through. Then the accelerator pump will work once again, and that fixes it. Okay, let's see if it works. Look at that. It runs. And it's not flooding. Got our fuel pressure regulator set to about 4 pounds. We'll go drive it and see if that's good or if that's too much. We won't know until we drive. It'll work great. This truck's in pretty nice shape. It's a 1980, and that might be real mileage. Let's see if you can see it. 89,973. Look at how clean this thing is inside. Amazing.